How's everybody doing? Good. Glad to see everyone, including the table way in the back. It's like y'all are in detention. It's like you're in detention or something. They are. What's wrong with this table? Glad everybody's here. A couple of announcements before we get started. Number one is our schedule. Just want to let you know that there's only 5 weeks left in our session for this year. Next week, we're going to talk about Job 29. The next week, March 14th, is the spring break week when we're not going to meet. Then we're going to finish up Job March the 21st. And then we're going to have 2 Easter lessons, the Thursday right before Easter and the Thursday right after Easter. And then that will be it until next September. If you have any questions, let me know. Got the picture?
Got it.
Okay. I want to thank people who helped me with Upward. Upward is over. Saturday was our last set of games. We had what did we have? 69 kids signed up. One wound up, the daughter of one of the a member here who's was also a coach, wound up not playing, so I'm not going to count her. So we had 68 kids play. Only 20 were members or kids of members. So we had lots of people from outside the church who came. Played for 7 weeks. We wound up having 3 hours of games, so lots of games. I want to thank that guy, Dave Ashton, for doing a great job refereeing. He refereed 3 games a day for 5 of those Saturdays, and I greatly appreciate that. We had a great time. Those kids were out there learning about basketball, learning about being a teammate, praying before games, so learning about Christ. They had scripture to learn every week. It was amazing watching them grow in so many ways. Some of how kindergarten, not to pick on kindergartners and first graders, 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, but you know how selfish they can be. And to watch some of the better kids get the ball and then give the ball to one of the kids who was not very good to let them shoot near the end, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. It was just great seeing that they learned how to be teammates and also learned a little bit about basketball along the way. So anyway, thank you so much. Frank is not here today, I don't think, but he showed up basically every week to help me set up. Wendell showed up a couple times, but I couldn't have survived without Dave Ashton. So thank you again, Dave. And thank you all for helping support Upward. A great time. Last thing to tell you about is why am I wearing the Angels this week? And it has nothing to do with me being an Angels fan, because I'm a fan of all teams basically fairly equally, although the Rangers a little bit more than others. But I'm wearing it because I don't know if you know this guy. His name's Anthony Rendon. He actually went to Rice, and he plays for the Angels now, and he makes about $40 million, $35 million a year, which is going to be a key to the story. I don't know if you saw what he said this week or why he was in the news this week or late last week. Somebody asked him when he got to training camp. He did an interview, and somebody said, how are you? And he made a quote, and his quote was, "My faith, my family come first before this job." And that's not all he said. It was a long interview. People asked him lots of questions. He basically said things have changed from 10 years ago. In 2014, I was a different person. Now I have a family, and he said, "My faith, my family come first before this job." I think, and you may be wrong, or you may disagree with me, then say I'm wrong. I think that's a great thing to say. Faith and family should come first. Now, that doesn't mean, okay, yeah, my daughter has a party to go to today, so I'm going to skip the game against the Yankees today. Yeah, you're not going to say something like that, but his faith and his family comes first. But he has been vilified in the media, social media, everywhere, and I'm going to show you just some of the quotes. Trout should kick him out of the clubhouse. Mike Trout, the star of the Angels. What an epic failure, someone said. Honest to God, and God was, I just copied, that's the way it was on the thing. Wish the worst for him moving forward. And thanks, Anthony Rendon, you helped change the game for the worse. I disagree. I'm a fan of Anthony Rendon because of having that attitude. Again, he's not saying, I hate baseball and I'm going to play terribly and just collect my millions of dollars because I don't like it. Faith and family come first. I hope you all agree with that. But I think it's something we can stand and sing about. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Melt me, mold me, fill me, use me. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on me. Pray with me. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together on this cool morning. Thank you for bringing these men together and learning from you, learning so much about life, about faith. Thank you for teaching us about wicked tongues and what we can do to correct them. Please speak through me and in spite of me, and bless everything in your name. Amen. All right, today we're starting with after Job 22 from last week, when we talked about dark moments, and Kit did such a fabulous job sharing that lesson and telling his story. Job 23, just to catch you up, Job wants to talk to God. He still has confidence in God. He says, I have treasured the words of his mouth. Remember, after all that's gone on, he's still in a good mood, sort of, about God. He still trusts God. He still understands that God is on his side, even though so many things have gone against him. In 24, he talks about the wicked. That's what he calls them, the wicked. And by that, he refers to thieves, adulterers, murderers, rebels, I guess you could say. Said God does not want to charge them with being wrong, but basically they get away with things. He says, he, being the wicked, should be remembered no more. So what should happen to the wicked? What should happen to these people who do wrong things? Because Job's again saying, I did nothing wrong. How come I see all these wicked people out here getting things, and all these bad things are happening in me? What did I do? He still does not understand, which is hard to, what went wrong. So he's talking about the wicked who are escaping all the perils that he's been facing. Job 25, Bildad has his final speech, is his last time on stage. He misunderstood what Job said in 23 and 24 about having confidence in God and about the wicked. And he talks about God and talks about maggots and worms. It's a very strange speech. I think Bildad may have been a strange person. But anyway, that's Bildad. Again, he doesn't understand what's going on. None of the three friends really do. So they're just giving, okay, here's what I think you should do, Job. So Job now responds, how have you helped me? How have you helped me? I've had these maladies for so long now, and you've done nothing for me. How have you helped me? In 27, Job talks about integrity. What's been said, you might think that Job has said wicked things about God and his friends, but Job didn't think so, and said with his integrity, he would not do that. Think about that. With his integrity, despite all the bad things that have happened to him, he will not say something bad about God. He says, as long as my breath is in me and the Spirit of God is in my nostrils, my lips will not speak falsehood and my tongue will not utter deceit. My tongue will not utter deceit. Who can say that? How many of us can be that strong, can be that noble, I guess you can say, with all the things that have gone wrong in Job's life? And he doesn't know it's actually because of God, because of God's little side bet with Satan, but he's still taking the high road. How many of us can say that we would do something like that when things, well, if they go as wrong as Job, but just in our lives, think about things in our lives that have happened when we've said something bad, whether it's about God or family member, friend, coworker. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but we all do it. Unfortunately, we all do it. It's hard not to, but our tongues can be wicked, and we have to be careful about that. Well, I've got a multi-part lesson, I guess, or story about that to tell you. But first of all, I want to talk about wicked tongues, and the easy answer is that we're all grown men, and I think we all know the difference between right and wrong. And yes, we may at times we may find ourselves saying something like, "He doesn't know what he's talking about. He is a complete idiot." Blah 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 blah. Something, and maybe something even worse. And we may immediately feel remorse, and we may immediately feel like, "Oh, we shouldn't have said that." And that's pretty simple, I think, for all of us to understand, is that you don't attack someone's character. You don't attack someone's moral being. You don't attack someone's, even their religion. You don't attack someone like that. And again, I think we all know that, so I'm not going to get into that very much, but I think we also know what we need to do if that happens, as far as acknowledging that, apologizing, repenting, that there are steps to take to, again, if we do go down that slippery slope with someone, how to say you're sorry and how to admit you were wrong in saying it. But the thing I want to talk about today are the two things. Number one is that, because if this was, say, 30 years ago, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have said what I'm about to say, because our world has changed. Social media, texting, even emailing, I guess, to a certain extent, although we could do the same thing as far as email with written letters years ago. But you think about the way we communicate now with social media, and especially with texting. Something quick, boom, 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 boom. And we think, oh, we're going to get rid of this question really fast. But I want you to think about neutral reads negative. Think about that term. Neutral reads negative. Think about when someone asks you a question, whether it's, again, a coworker, a friend, a spouse, a child, it doesn't matter who it is, but someone asks you a question. And it might be, I hate to even make up the questions, but you reply something really quick, because that's what we do when we text. You know, we're maybe at a red light. Don't do it while we're driving. Maybe it's at a red light. Maybe it's as we're walking in somewhere. Maybe it's between phone calls, whatever it may be. Most texts are not long and drawn out. There's something really quick. And when you text something really quick and all you say something is something like, I wrote down a couple of examples, and they're bad examples probably, but if you say, "I don't want to," or "Is that all?" or "Where are we going?" Think about the person who sent you that question. Let's say it's your spouse saying, you know, "Let's go out with the Joneses and have dinner tonight." And all your reply back is, "Where are we going?" And she reads that as, "Where are we going?" as opposed to, "Where are we going?" When you speak, you can inflect and show emotion and show how you feel about something, as opposed to when all you get is a one-line text. It's up to the person who receives it. How are they feeling? And are they reading it the right way? And I have a feeling that everyone in here can probably think of a time when someone that they texted took it the wrong way. So just keep that in mind, that neutral often reads negative. When you send a text, or even something short on social media or something like that. With Twitter, what did Twitter used to have? 128 characters or something like that. Anyway, be careful with the modern way of communicating. The other form of communication that I want to tell you a story about that can get us all in trouble is that we have to understand that when we talk to someone and tell them something, they may not know the whole story. If you just say something like, you know, Dave Ash and I were talking about Alan Hilton's thing last night on his Wednesday night function last night for Lent that had a packed house in here. And if Dave had said something to me about, oh, you weren't able to go here? Yeah, I couldn't come. I had some important things going on. And if I'd said more things, but if I said it to where it sounds like, oh, well, that's not important, but this was important. Anyway, if they don't know the whole story about what's going on, again, it can get you to make it sound like you have a wicked tongue. And then that's the story I want to really talk about today. Back in 1992, Texas Longhorns signed a wide receiver out of Washington, D.C. named Lavelle Pinkney. That's him, number 80. That's him scoring against Syracuse in September of 1992. And he was about 6'5". He was fast. He was big. He was amazing. I want to say it was the week after the Syracuse game. It may have been the next week. Back in the old days, they would bring 4 or 5 star players from that week to the media up on the 9th floor of the stadium where the press box is. Actually, it's the floor above the press box for interviews right after the coach, who was John Makovic at the time, would talk. Well, they bring Pinkney in, whereas in today's world, they put the player behind a podium, so to speak, and all the cameras are there, and you don't get an exclusive interview. It's not a one-on-one. It's a mass press conference type of thing. Back then, like, okay, he would walk around and Channel 7 would be over there, Channel 36 would be over here, Channel 24 would be over here, and he'd walk around and you'd get a one-on-one. Well, I'm talking to Pinkney to do a story about how well he's doing as a freshman, and he just had it's like a 60-yard touchdown catch against Syracuse, and I'm doing a story about him and how great he is and why he came here from Washington, D.C., and blah, 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 blah. And as I'm talking to him about his background in Washington, he tells me, yeah, I'm just so glad I got here because I was in a bad place. When I was in high school, I was on the streets of Washington, D.C. I was selling cocaine, and it was bad. I was like, I'm Mr. Straight-Laced. My eyes were like, really? Wow. Yeah, and he tells me more about it, and I put together a story and blah, 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 blah. 93, he plays again, does well. 94, he plays, and he gets suspended for a game. And I think Texas lost the game, but in 94, my boss at the time, my news director, was a female. Not that matters, but it was a female who did not like or understand sports. In 1991, she called me in one time and said, y'all do too many stories about football and baseball and basketball. My husband likes to jog around town lake. I'd like to see stories like that. And I said, okay. My photographer and I called them no ball sports. And we tried to do a no ball story once a week, maybe once a month. Anyway, that's how she was. Well, in 1994, in June of 94, our parent company, we were owned by Gannett at the time, who also has USA Today. They decided to have a big sports get together of all of their, I think they had 11 or 13, something like that at the time, stations. They were in Washington, D.C., St. Louis, Tampa, Cleveland, anyway, mainly fairly big towns, and then Austin. And they had to get together, and the sports director went. I wasn't me at the time. Sports director went, news director went, somebody else went, and the management of Gannett talked about, we've done some research, and what we need to do everywhere, not just KVU, but everywhere, what we need to do is we need to concentrate on the big sports: football, NFL football, NCAA football, NBA, NCAA basketball, March Madness, Major League Baseball. That's what people care about. That's what I want y'all to concentrate on. And it just reversed everything in this lady's mind, which was good at the time, because she came back saying, y'all need to forget about all those other stories. Y'all need to do this and this. I want you to go to every Cowboy home game, and I want you to do, and it's like, great. We told you that years ago, but that's great. One of the other things that she found out while she was up there and talking to other stations is she found out that WUSA, which is a station up in Washington, D.C., and it's kind of the flagship station because Washington, D.C. is the home of Gannett. so I guess you could call it their flagship station, had something where covering what it used to be called Redskins. I know now they're the Commanders, but covering the Redskins back then, they would have something on their sports show on their 6 o'clock show or 7, whatever time it was on the East Coast, but their early evening show, they would give their sportscast extra time and have a round table with their 3 sportscasters talking about the Redskins and what went right, what went wrong on the game from Sunday. And gave them extra time, and apparently it was popular. And my boss hears about this. That's what y'all need to do. Wow. You need to do that and talk about the Longhorns. Monday, I'll give you extra time. Now, at the time, hard to believe when I tell you this, but at the time we would get 4 minutes for sportscasts at 6 o'clock, Monday through Friday, 4 minutes. When I left 5 years ago, we were down to 1:45. But back then it was 4 minutes. If the year before I left, if I had ever walked in and said, I need 4 minutes tonight, they would say, yeah, whatever, sure. It would have never happened. But we got 4 minutes. She said, we're going to give you 6 minutes on Mondays for to have this round table. And we'll have the main sports guy sitting on the desk, and then the 2 reporters, me and someone else, in different places. Maybe in the sports office, maybe in the newsroom, maybe in the studio, maybe live at the stadium, or if the live truck was available, live somewhere else. It's going to be great. Okay, let's do that. So that's how we did it. And we had a couple of good roundtable discussions, talking mainly about the Longhorns and also talking about the Cowboys, because you might remember the Cowboys had training camp here. So Austin adopted the Cowboys, and we thought they were ours as well in so many ways, especially since they were good at the time. So the Monday after Pinckney has been suspended from a game, they say that the live unit's available. Mike, how about if you go live for the roundtable from the stadium? And David, the other one, he's going to be in the newsroom. And then Steve, the main anchor at the time, is going to be in the studio. It's like, okay, that's fine. So photographer and I go down to the stadium. We set up kind of on the south side so the sun could hit me, so you could have better light at 6:20. It comes on, and we start talking. We talk a little bit about the state of the Longhorns at the time, and then the sports director brings up Lavelle Pinckney and about him being suspended. And he'd already been suspended, I think it was 1 game in 92 and 1 game in 93, and now 1 or 2 games in 94. And he basically says, the sports director says, I think Mackovic should just kick him off the team. He needs to be kicked off the team, get rid of him, and move on. That's what needs to happen. Well, I'm those of you who know me, no, I'm a fairly laid back person. I'm a fairly relaxed person, but you get me into an argument, and I want to win, and I will do what I can to try to get that victory, so to speak. So he says that, and I said, well, Steve, I disagree. I'm sorry, but if and I didn't have a kid at the time, but I said, if I'm a parent, I've trusted my child with you, John Mackovic, the coach. I expect you to treat this son of mine with respect and help him grow. And kicking him off the team is not going to help. And then Steve said something about blah, 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 about no, he needs to be kicked off the team. I said, no, what do you want to happen to this guy? This is terrible, because you're basically giving up on him. Doesn't matter who it is, but especially with Lavelle Pinckney, you don't want to give up on him and ruin his life, let him go back to the streets of Washington, D.C. and sell crack cocaine again. You don't want that to happen. Well, you got to remember that just because you've done a story and you know things about the guy doesn't mean that everyone who's watching was watching back in 1992 when I did that story. It's not like every time Lavelle Pinckney is on TV and they say Lavelle Pinckney Jr., Washington, D.C., used to sell cocaine. People don't know this. But I didn't think about that. What year was that? 94. I was 27 years old, still young, and thought, okay, this is the way I'm winning my argument. I saw nothing wrong with what I did. Nothing wrong, because I didn't lie. I told the truth. I'm on his side. I'm on Lavelle's side. It's like, no, don't kick him off, because look what can happen if you do kick him off. We get back, that ended at 6:25. My photographer and I take our gear. There was a live truck operator, so we didn't have to worry about that part. We take the tripod, the camera, a couple of cables, get in the car. We drive back. We get back to the station. 1990s traffic, so a little bit faster. And we get back at 6:45. I walk in, and the 6 o'clock producer, who's a female, not that it matters, but I still remember I walk in, she's standing in the newsroom, and she says, "Wow, Mike, I'm never getting into an argument with you. That was amazing. Wow." I'm just feeling good about myself. So, yeah, I did well, especially since my boss is so enthralled with this roundtable. I want to impress my boss. And thought nothing of it. And I don't remember what I did. I think I did a 10 o'clock story that night. But anyway, this is, again, before the days of email, before the days of social media. The only thing you could get were phone calls from upset viewers. And I got nothing. I went back home and felt good about myself. The next day, because of the way my schedule was at the time, because I had to work on Monday, had to work on Friday, so my 2 days off were Tuesday, Wednesday in the fall that fall. So I'm off on Tuesday. I get a phone call in that afternoon from the sports director saying there's a lot of people upset. Station's getting a lot of phone calls. You may want to come up here. I was like, what? What'd I do? I get up there and I've got all these messages from people, not voicemail. We didn't have voicemail yet, but just messages from people. And as I'm sitting there at my desk, I get a couple of phone calls. People are livid at me because I have been a racist or prejudiced, however you want to describe it, because I basically said that Lavelle Pinckney is going to be a drug dealer if he's not on the team. Like, how can you say that? He might do this or this or this. Like, because he used to be one. He told me that firsthand. And I'm on the phone talking to a young kid who says it's a student at UT. He says, yeah, we're getting things together. We're coming up to do a picket and rally in front of your station because of what you said. I'm like, are you kidding? What did I say that was wrong? He was a drug dealer on the streets of Washington, D.C. I did not make that up. He told me that. Blah, 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 blah. I finally won them over and they understood. And luckily they didn't do that. But as I'm sitting there, I get a phone call from UT. And I'm told that DeLoss Dodge is going to look, there's a thing at the time called what was it called? Tele something, where you could, because nobody had DVRs back then, where somebody recorded all the newscasts and stuff, and you could go purchase a segment. And DeLoss Dodge was going to buy a copy of our newscast, that sportscast, to hear what I had to say, because he'd been getting so many complaints about it, to see if there needed to be any type of legal action or anything like that. I'm like, are you kidding? What did I do wrong? I did nothing wrong. So the next day, I come up and I talk on the phone with someone from UT who said, yeah, DeLoss is still a little upset about things. He was the athletic director at the time, by the way. And Coach Macvic's not very happy, and Lavelle is steamed about things. I'm like, again, I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? Can I come up there and talk to people? Sure. So I go up on Wednesday. Again, I'm off that day, but I go up to practice. And at the end of practice, I see Macvic, tell him something. Macvic actually liked me, which helped me at the time. Tell him about what happened. He understood, said thank you. And then Lavelle comes over, and Lavelle is steamed at me. How can you say that about me? It's like, Lavelle, I interviewed you 2 years ago, and you told me about your background, that's what you did when you were in high school. I just don't want you to do that again. And I'm afraid if you get kicked off the team, that's what could happen. So, but I'm not going to go back like that. I'm not going to do that. Like, but I'm worried that you will. I'm on your side. I'm talking and I'm talking, I'm talking. Then he finally, we shake hands and things are okay. And then I go upstairs and I see DeLops, explain things to him, and he basically understands and calls off the dogs. But again, it all had to do with the fact that people thought I had a wicked tongue because they didn't know the full story, because they weren't part of the conversation I'd had 2 years ago. They weren't a part of, they didn't know what I knew. And that got me into trouble. So think about that whenever you're having a conversation. I don't think it'll be quite like the Lavelle Pinckney story, but think about that when you're explaining things. When you know something about a story and your wife knows just a part of it, or your neighbor knows just a part of it, and your coworker knows just a part of it, whoever it is, understand that the way you say things and what you say can be misconstrued just because I didn't know that part of the story. And I don't want you to get into I'd say the trouble, but the turmoil that I was in 1994 because of something like that. Your tongues can be wicked. And we all know that, but they can be wicked in other ways too. Sometimes when we don't realize that what we're saying is taken the wrong way. Here's some questions. When has your tongue gotten you into trouble? And how did God help you? I know it's kind of a tough question. How have you kept your integrity when friends have spoken out against you? Sticks and stones. Have words ever hurt you? Should be an interesting discussion. Thank you.